The seagulls follow trawler. It's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you very much.
Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Don't back down, double down. Don't back down, double down.
Yes! There we go! I forgot to put the cameras on.
I thought I was doing it myself there for a second. I was shaking myself.
No David, no Bhoycie, take the T.N.F away. Conor McCann.
I can't even get the comments either, so I'd just be looking at that one comment the rest of the hour.
It would defeat the purpose of the show, wouldn't it? Because it's the T.N.F. It is the Thursday night forum. The bus has had a couple of nights off. I always like it at the time, having a couple of nights off, and then by the time it comes around to doing it again, I'm itching to get back in the driver's seat, mate. And that is exactly where I am tonight. I might be in the driver's seat, but it's you guys that have the keys. Get your points in tonight to me and young Mr. McCann. Connor, I'm still not over the fact you didn't win the quiz at the live event, mate. I thought you were going to stick on, mate. I thought you were going to stick on, but Mark did well.
Mark got 100%. You can only match 100%, and unfortunately, I didn't even do that. So well done to Mark on the night. Is what it is.
It is what it is. And it was good to get him to do a wee sing song at the end, singing top of the league, looking down on the Rangers. That was hilarious. Anyway, it is good to have so many folk on the bus already. Already we're sitting with a healthy 57, 59 live already watching on YouTube with us tonight. Or on the bus, let's just say we're all on the bus. There's a 59-seater there right now, and it will expand as the night goes on. But to the 59 that are on with us, do hit the like button, do hit subscribe, share it if you want. That always helps. If you want to become a Bhoycie Bus member, like so many of you have, and get that wee symbol beside your name and help the channel grow, because obviously we need all the help we can get these days. We don't even have a sponsor anymore. We need to get one of them sorted. I need to get my finger out my arse, mate. Get back into the game. Get a sponsor sorted. I need to think outside the box. So I don't know who I would get. I approached Dragon Soup. Did I ever tell you that? I said, they said no.
The Port Juniors or so in the sponsor, wasn't it?
Aye, but they basically just said because it's Celtic Rangers, they
can't be seen to favour one side.
Aye, so anyway, I don't know what it's like weather-wise for you. I mean, it's muggy as anything here. I'm sweating,
it's actually stifling. I was going to open the window, but I don't know how the wind would sound on camera. So,
it's shiny.
Isn't it? It's a bit. The humidity's hit it a wee bit. It's a bit kind of. It's only a short haircut I've got, but it's suffered the weather a wee bit, to say the least.
Anyway, that gets all the niceties over. It's time to talk Celtic. And we've not spoke Celtic since Monday with me and Jonathan. Obviously, there's been a few things that have happened since then, Connor. As you know, in the Celtic sphere, there's always rumours abound, hard-hitting stories, exclusives on Twitter. So, you've got to try and keep up with it all. And obviously, we will kick off before we start taking points from you guys with the big news. And it is Haksabanovic. Haksabanovic has been like, don't make me say that too many times tonight, please.
I need to say it a few times to get used to it.
Try to get used to it. Haksabanovic. Right. But he has been linked. It's a very interesting one. Few aspects I want to talk about. First and foremost, we're not going to sit here and say we know loads about Haksabanovic, Conor McCann. I'm not a big follower of the Russian league, although I was a few weeks ago when I was touting Jordan Larson. But anyway, that was all fair game in my opinion. But Haksabanovic is a winger, we believe. He's not going to be competing with O'Reilly and I was going to say Rogic there. Where is Rogic? I miss Rogic. O'Reilly and Turnbull for that sort of attacking midfield role. It looks like he's coming in for even fiercer competition, in these winger sort of areas. I wonder if there could be more formations we're going to see this season if that is the case. But not only that, he's a player that Andrew's looking at this time last year. Now, that would be a repeat of the trick we did with Moritz Jens. Because, of course, Jens was heavily linked with Celtic last summer. Andrew's kept his eye on his progress. His situations became one that's available to Celtic. And now we're going in. I don't mind that. I think the other aspect to it, I'm going to throw loads at you here with this transfer. You can go through it as many of the angles as you want, Connor. I think there's another reason. I think the fact he's cut price has triggered Celtic to make the move. That's not a criticism, by the way. I think he's a person of interest. Right, and then what's happened now is Celtic's went, he's a person of interest that's now way more affordable than what he was earlier this summer or last summer. Maybe that's worth getting that deal over the line whilst his value probably belies what his actual true quality is. Do you know what I mean? I think they're probably going, it's an opportunity too good to miss, as opposed to we desperately need this player right now because we've got no good wingers. I don't think that's the case. Another angle to it is, we're interesting debate, and I'll say his name again, Jordan Larson, regarding him signing in. A lot of it was poo-pooed on social media, and I was in some silly debates with some silly people, which happens, Connor. That's absolutely fine. And being told, where does he fit into our team? How's he going to get in ahead of Kyogo or Chaos? We've got Maeda coming in as a third striker as well. Now, I don't know how many wingers that takes us up to, 17. I don't know if I'm close or not, but what we have to be realistic is, one thing about Ange that is no different to any other manager is you can't have enough good players. So it blows away the myth that Celtic wouldn't have been interested in a centre forward that was available if they thought he fitted into the wage structure, would be interested, yada, yada. Why the Jordan Larson one wasn't a person of interest, that's up to them. I don't want Ange signing players that he's not interested in. It confuses me, but I'm not the football manager, he is, so that's fine. But it tells you that if a good striker comes available between now and the end, I think you wouldn't hesitate to have 3 out-and-out centre forwards. Because I think I suspected in the summer corner, Kyogo would be a winger more this season. Chaos would be the sort of focal point up top. But it looks to me like he's made his mind up. It's going to be Kyogo and Giacomakis battling for the jersey. I wouldn't be surprised to see a third one come in there when we look at how strong the competition he'll have for places is in the wide areas. Now, this is a signing that has all these different angles I've just discussed there. What are you making of it? And do you see it happening?
Well, it's actually interesting you mentioned the striker thing there, because if you read certain outlets, they would have us one striker down come the end of the window, but that's a different discussion for later on. But I think on the boy Haksabanovic, have I got that right?
Haksabanovic, mate.
Haksabanovic, right? My first initial reaction was one of kind of surprise, I've got to say. Seeing us linked with a left winger, I would have thought that would have been one of the last positions maybe on the park we would have looked to. Obviously, Maeda's started most of the games so far at left wing, which is accommodated by Jota playing the right wing, but many folk will believe, and myself included probably, that Jota's best position is actually on the left wing. So, but when I read a wee bit. I read this Wikipedia. I read a wee bit on Twitter. I'm not kidding on to be delving into the archives.
Over to our Russian correspondent, Conor McCann.
I'm not claiming I've got access to a Y Scout account. And I know how many touches he's taken in opposition boxes and all that carry on, right? But from reading on Wikipedia and Twitter and things like that, it seems like he's actually quite a versatile attacking player. He can play left wing, right wing, off the striker, number 10. So I'm actually kind of viewing this as a good signing for the squad, like in terms of extra depth in attacking positions. But as you say, I don't feel as if we can have too many good players, and somebody that can fit in quite a few positions is a signing in my book that makes sense. I think the fee I seen quoted was on Twitter anyway. It was €5 million. I don't know why every transfer fee all of a sudden is in euros. We're going along the Bhoycie currency again. But
yes.
But, you know, as you say, that's probably cut price when you consider he went to Ruben for, I think it was $6.5 million last season. So he'll be under contract there. And obviously, with what's going on in Russia,
he wants out.
We're probably going to see that value decreased a wee bit this summer, just due to that and nothing else. So I mean, after the initial kind of surprise seen as linked with somebody who is on paper a left winger, when I started to read a wee bit into it, I hate doing this, and I don't do it a lot with potential new signings because I've done it with so many that have turned out to be duds. But I did watch a YouTube video, and interestingly, quite a lot of the work he seems to do seems to be in central areas. That's one thing I picked up from. I thought basically you type in his name, the first video that comes up, it's actually quite a good video because it points out where he is on the park before he receives the ball. You see him in a wee circle before he receives the ball. And interestingly enough, a lot of the time when he receives the ball, it's in a central area. So I'm not necessarily convinced he's just an out-and-out left winger and he's coming to compete with Jota, Maeda, and that's it. I'm convinced this guy is going to be quite useful in a number of positions. I think that will benefit the squad in an attacking sense. Definitely.
Well, that's a brilliant point because that would actually tie in with what Postecoglou was saying. Because he said something along the lines, I'll not try and even paraphrase it because I can't remember the exact quote at all, but he'd said something along the lines of wanting players that were versatile. I'll be honest, my instant reaction to that was utility player. I would rather we're going for first team regulars. However, someone raised a point in the comments when I'd said that, and they were bang on the money. Versatile doesn't no longer mean that, you know, that they're necessarily like a utility player who's going to be coming off the bench. Versatility is what Ange's looking for in his first team players. It's no bad thing anymore in football. You need guys that can interchange. Look how much Maeda and Jota have switched. Look how often Maeda's played up top when needed. You know, so this versatility thing, I maybe was a bit dinosaur-esque when I was like, I'm like, versatile. That just sounds to me like a substitute word for we need another squad player who could fill a couple of gaps if and when needed. Now I'm beginning to think, no, Ange's preferred players are versatile players. That's what he likes. Even look at, we were just saying about Kyogo there. Kyogo I had down as probably being one of the wingers this season and playing up front as well. But I've seen Chaos actually overtaking him as the number 9 in the team. And you maybe seen Kyogo on the left or the right and Jota or whatever combination. There's so many. So I think I take that point on board. And now I begin to think Haksabanovic actually, Andrew's told us what he's doing here. If the signing is to go ahead, that's probably the guy he was actually referring to when he's made those comments, which is very interesting. He's not signed as of yet. Monty's asking there, but the rumours are now heating up. It's been covered.
It's been reported in I think the Swedish and the Russian media outlets that the deal's actually done. It's just. It sounds like it's just a case of waiting for it to be announced by the club, to be honest.
And they like a Friday announcement.
I'd be surprised if we never seen it announced by tomorrow. If we never seen it announced by tomorrow, I'd start to doubt whether it's going to happen because it seems to be one of these that seems to be moving quite fast. So, which is the way I like. I like a rumour a day signing's complete. I can't be asked for this strung out process.
Oh, I know. But you know what? We've got to look at ourselves at all that as well. That is what we do. We hype up any name we see. 15 folk retweet it. Videos start going about on social media, and your wee minds kind of convince yourself Celtic signing them. We kind of ramp up that pressure subconsciously, but it's like it's stupid. But that, I think, is just natural to support us.
That's the thing with the way the world is now. It's some kind of freelance journalist can tweet something about Celtic being among a number of clubs that are interested in a certain player, and all of a sudden it hits the media sites, and we're all automatically linked to this player. The one I always remember is Bojan. There seemed to be every summer.
Oh yeah,
Bojan was being linked to us as well as 10 to 20 other teams, and it was always social media was always going mental with it, like Bojan's coming to Celtic, blah blah blah. It never ever happened.
Aye, that was a weird one. He'd have been brilliant. He's a wee magician.
I think he'd have done a job for us, eh?
Aye, Bojan,
I'm saying that as if like I never started buying into the rumours at the time. I was buying into the rumours. I'm saying that as if I seen that tweet and I just went, nah, it's never happening. At the time I was like, aye, that would be good. Getting into it, but in hindsight, that's what it was.
What do you make of this for Philip DeMarco? It's an interesting point. Good evening as well, Phil. Hope you're good, mate. He's saying another attacking player, superb, but no DMC, holding midfield, or whatever you want to call it. I know Brown Warrior likes to be very specific in the position, so I'll be waiting for him to come in the chat soon.
That's the FIFA generation, isn't it? The specific positions.
They'll be calling him a quarterback or something. But I mean, I think it shows where Andrew's priorities in the team are. And that, to me, was no secret before he actually started day one in office at Celtic. I think we all knew he is going to be a top-heavy manager. I'm not talking about his weight, right? Because he's a handsome big bastard. We're talking about he's always going to be favouring bringing in players of an attacking nature. It's what he loves. The style of football he plays. That's what he always goes for. Now, when it comes to a DMC, I just wonder when you're seeing the minutes Moyes getting, that actually, to be fair, that could be. I think he just comes in and makes the team tick now, mate. And I don't see Aaron Moy being the box-to-box player that cost £10 million 6-7 years ago. He looks to me, well, naturally he's not completely fit, so you can't overjudge.
Aye,
he looks a bit leggy though.
To me, I actually thought he played well when listen. It's easy to come on when you're 4-0 up. I understand that before the comments get into that, but I actually thought for the wee snippets I seen of him when did we play? Sunday. I was actually pretty impressed that the one thing he done every time a ball get cleared, Moy was the one to pick it up and start the attack again. I actually really liked what I seen from him. Yeah, I would agree. He still looks a wee bit leggy, but I think with a few games, we'll start to see Moy as a useful squad player.
Do you see him being a holding midfielder for Celtic? Do you think he's going to play for the forward?
I still would see him being a holding midfielder. I kind of.
Me too.
Even for when I vaguely listen, I never watched a lot of Huddersfield or a lot of Brighton when he was playing with A teams, but because he was kind of had the bald shiny head, he was always quite a noticeable figure on the park. So from what I kind of remember of him, he always was that kind of deep lying playmaker. I don't know if I'm totally making that up or what, but that is how I remember him. That's how I see him going and forward in this season, basically as a kind of option for the number 6. I think Callum McGregor will start most games in that position with the way the squad's looking just now. But I think Moy's a good other option for that. And I was, as I say, I was impressed with what I've seen. And I think that's the first time he's played more than 10 minutes in a Celtic shirt. But I liked what I've seen, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, does that mean then, in answer to what Philip's saying, no DMC? Is that because Moy's in the building now? That kind of, that ship sailed, and I think Ange maybe will be content with the sort of the options he's got in that role.
I mean, originally I didn't think so with that signing, but I think it's starting to get proved that this kind of is the idea behind it. But I've not seen us linked with any holding midfielders in recent times. I've not heard any sound bites for Ange that it's a position in the park we're looking to strengthen. So I'm not at this point in time. I'm not expecting to see a holding midfielder in. I still would quite like to see a kind of physical holding midfielder in, but that's maybe just the way I think. Like, obviously, Ange's got a lot better ideas in football than I do. That's why I'm sitting here and Ange's sitting in the dugout at Celtic Park. But like,
But that doesn't make
I'm,
your opinion meaningless, though, either.
No, definitely no. But like,
do you know what? Go on.
I like.
Sorry.
I'm waiting forward to see how it pans out and the manager's ideas, because I'm liking what I'm seeing so far this season. I know we'll get on to it's going to get tougher when we get into. We've got Rangers in a couple of weeks. We've got very, very tough European matches, but whoever we draw, it's going to be tough. So we'll obviously get into that as we go on. But like, so far, what we've seen has been very good, and no complaints. No complaints for me so far.
No, I mean, he doesn't get much wrong. Let's be honest, so far. But that doesn't mean though that every single decision you have to agree with that he makes either. And for me, if there's not another, sort of player brought in with a sort of dominant sort of physical profile into midfield, in my opinion, that would be an opportunity missed, because we've had all summer, and I think it would bring more balance to a midfield that, for me, is very, very pleasing on the eye, but may not be as good technically as what we think they are once they're up against the elite of Europe. Is sometimes one way to nullify that is by having a different approach, having a slightly different style, having a different makeup of player in there. And I wouldn't have minded that. However, it is entirely the manager's call, as you say. But I think we're perfectly entitled as fans to say, well, if it were me, and it never will be, but if it were me, I would have went all out. If it was Sousa that you wanted, if he's went to Espanyol, that tells me he was more than affordable for Celtic. More than affordable for Celtic. And we should have been able to sell the club easier than what it would be to sell Espanyol to go to the bottom half of La Liga. So that one, perhaps, maybe Celtic's interest wasn't as strong as what was made out. Maybe it wasn't, but he certainly fitted that profile from the footage I watched. He seemed that more physical type of player. I mean, God, we all want Wanyama-esque. I mean, I think he was a bit of a freak of nature, such was his dominance when he joined us when he was 19, 20 years old, and it was like...
Oh, he was immense, man.
I mean, I can't grow a beard now, but fucking hell. I mean, he was 19 and he looked sort of 29, 30, and
he was a proper man when he was a teenager. He was just a brilliant player. He's one of my favourite Celtic players of all time, and since I've been watching Celtic, I just absolutely loved Big Wanyama. And I hope one day we can see a player of his ilk again, because if it wasn't for injuries, he'd have went on to have an unbelievable career. Still had a very good career, and I think he still plays. He's still playing the MLS just now.
MLS.
He's had a very good career, but if it wasn't for the injuries he picked up, he could have had a top level career.
I think his first year at Spurs. His first year at Southampton. When he went to Spurs, I think that, obviously you can't help the injury side of things, but I think when he went to Spurs, he probably had other options at that point where maybe it would have been a bigger club. I'm not saying the injury wouldn't have still happened, of course, but I wonder if Spurs was the right move. But anyway, enough of Wanyama and physical midfielders, because let's get physical and talk about Scotland's most physical striker. He's the man who brings chaos, the FTF, the first-time finisher. Let's talk about him, and let's talk about how he is absolutely not for sale. Jesus, where is he? I mean, I've got nothing against the person who wrote the article. I felt that some of the Twitter reactions, just debate it with him or ask him a question about it and say, what are you talking about? I mean, I had quote tweeted that and saying, fucking, why even come up with an angle to make this feasible? Because it's just ridiculous. That was sort of my takeaway. Then you see him getting called hundreds of names, a cunt and all that. And I just think that sometimes I'm like, wind your neck. And a couple of things, I did read it. I mean, I read the headline and nearly, spat out my, Ribena, we'll call it, right? And genuinely, when I read the headline, I thought, this has got to be a fucking wind-up. Then I read the article, And what I learned from it is, no matter who you support and, you know, how biased you can be, if you can only watch football these days, Connor, as a modern football fan, through stats, through numbers, you will get more wrong than you will get right. That is an undeniable truth, in my opinion. There is so much more to football than the numbers. There is no context. There is no emotion. There is no pressure. There is no atmosphere. These are just black and white numbers on a board that you are reading, or on a screen that you're reading, and trying to then project into an opinion without, unfortunately, context. Now, the data is important, and of course it assists massively in being able to form, you know, your opinion on whether a player should play or not and things like that. But your eyes never lie. To turn Chaos Giakoumakis' European goal record into a reason why we should consider maybe selling him is utterly bizarre. The quote even was 0.24 goals in Europe for Celtic. Giakoumakis barely featured in Europe for Celtic last season. Giakoumakis was injured half of last season. So when then trying to spin it, and I've seen a couple of the replies, and trying to spin it into people just don't understand market peaks and values of, or something like that, it was said. That's also a void point, because how could he possibly, when he's in a 5-year deal and spent 6 months of his first season injured, or 4 months, whatever it was, injured, half the season, let's say, injured, how could he possibly, in the other half of that, achieved what would be his peak value, particularly when he's not featured in Europe's premier competition and is about to? For me, if you're ever going to look to find out what Giakoumakis' peak value would be, it would be after a full season at Celtic, and one that included playing against the best teams in Europe. That's not fucking rocket science, Connor. That is just simple. So all that baloney that you're reading, it's utter garbage. For me, it's a bit headline grabbing. I also didn't like, on it, just on another note, this is meant to be a Celtic news article, constantly referring to Celtic fans in the third party. I find that very, very strange. That's not fan media, so don't dress it up as that if you're going to talk like that. But I've got to be honest, Giakoumakis, it just insults me when I see stuff like that. Now, to be balanced, we have had long discussions on here about the potential of selling Josip Juranovic. So I can't be a complete hypocrite, because Juranovic actually probably start more games in Chaos this season, for example. But I think that is because with the Juranovic deal, I think the rumours have came about twice, and I'm concerned there's no smoke without fire. I think in Giakoumakis' case, I think he's got a lot of unfinished business this year. I think he's frustrated a bit last year, Connor, if I'm totally honest to you. Firstly, the article, and then explain to us why, unless you disagree, why Chaos cannot be sold at any cost unless it is silly money that we won't get offered.
Well, I've got to confess, I actually never read the article, to be honest.
No, don't worry about
I
that.
don't actually. To be honest, the Celtic way is not something that really interests me. I don't know if anyone in the comment section of that it does interest it. It's the same kind of umbrella as a Rangers review. It's just not my thing. It's of no interest to me. But and the article that's been referred to, I find it incredible that an analytics kind of guy or account or whatever you want to call it, can come up with a narrative of trying to sell the guy who essentially really got going for Celtic in January and finished top scorer. What the best analytic you can possibly have in football is number of goals scored for a striker.
Fact.
So the most key analytic, whatever other metrics are measured, XG and whatever else, the most key analytic, the one that matters the most, is how many goals you score, how many match-winning goals, and
simple.
It's as you say, it's no rocket science. But I totally agree with you in terms of Europe. Like, I can only remember, I think he only played 3 group stage games, and I don't think he started any into the bargain.
No.
I remember he came up. I can remember him coming on against Leverkusen the night they battered us 4-0, but I was looking back, that was actually quite a good game. But that anyway, different conversation. But Jackie Marcus came on, and I thought, oh, he looks a bit heavy. But he was going to, he barely had a pre-season with that Venlo. He was playing himself, but
Rooster.
I'm sorry, that's a point I just can't get bought. I used to be totally against the XG, and I kind of started to realise the kind of why teams look at it and that. But I mean, surely actual goals are more important than expected goals. Like I can't be a dafty for saying that. Like maybe I am,
No,
and I'll admit if I am, but I cannot be a dafty for trying to claim that actual physical goals are more important than expected goals.
What are we talking about?
A guy in Jackie Marcus who's just at the weekend scored the second overhead kick. Now, I don't know what an overhead kick's ranks on XG, but that's a guy that's got the quality to do that on more than one occasion. So surely that's the metrics we go by this year. I'm sorry, I just can't get on board with that at all.
Rooster's always good in the comments. But he's not backing down, he's doubling down. He says expected goals are much more predictive than goals. Right.
How can you predict goals?
How can you predict Giakoumakis' overhead kick at the weekend, for example? See the 2 goals Kyogo scored in the League Cup last year? Predict one of them. It's nonsense. It's a nonsense argument. It is a complete now. It is a complete now fabrication of where football's going. They're trying to turn it into, I don't want to sound like a cunt, but for me, this is now allowing folk, how do I describe this? Fucking dorks, mate, right? I'm telling you, right? And it's just turning football into a science. That's the word I was looking for. Football is an art, not a science, in my opinion. Now, the data has an important factor to play. Of course it does. But absolutely no danger does the data come before what the artist does. No danger. Is that true? Absolutely not. But Rooster, I like someone who comes in, gives their opinion and backs it up. And I'm all for that, Rooster. So thank you for the comment. I do appreciate it.
In terms of that, I could see say if you're on the, I don't know what you call it, the analytics board of a team, and you're looking at, right, how many chances do we create in a game? How many balls do we get into a box? All right, here's a guy, Giakoumakis, who has scored X amount of goals for crosses. I can kind of see how it all comes together in that sense, but to say XG is more important than goals, I'm not buying that.
I wonder if we maybe, you know, the argument, right? Do you know if I was on the other side of the coin, just to play devil's advocate, would be 20 years ago. Remember the introduction of zonal marking, right? And can you hear me all right? Did I freeze there?
Yeah, I know. Fine.
So zonal marking sort of became a thing at the turn of the millennium, really. It became like big. And folk probably like me then would say, have you ever seen on teletext zonal with a goal? Right? How can a zone score a goal? And that used to, now it is absolutely commonplace for zonal marking. So I don't like feeling like I'm being overly dinosaur. And I think I'm a bit like you, Conor. I've came round to appreciating the data a lot more. But I do also feel in this modern generation we live in that sometimes you're trying with the data too hard to manipulate what is our sport because of its impulsiveness, unpredictability, its excitement. It's a sport that's played with emotion more than anything. It's played in front of fans that can almost drive teams on to do things that aren't expected, right? So when you think about it, data's there and has its place, but data can't manipulate what then happens with 22 guys in the grassy stuff. No, they can't. And that's where I think they cross the line. That's where the self-importance comes from. And that's when you get bollocks articles like the one we've just been talking about, Conor McCann.
Yeah. See if a player's underperforming in terms of XG as well. Like, if we'd signed a striker and they were trying to back it up by his expected goals are such and such in a game, but he actually only scores, I don't know, 3/4 of that, you're like, he's obviously not a very good finisher, is he? But that is, as I say, it's something that when it first came about, I just thought it was ridiculous, the whole predictive goals thing. And again, I have came into it in the sense that the kind of metrics of a game, how you can see a game going, kind of thing. But it's no more important than goals. I can't come into that.
No, we are not. Like, Rooster, this is the last one I'm bringing up on it because we will move on. But he says, getting chances is much more valuable than scoring chances. Read that opening bit back. Right, he says, because getting chances is highly repeatable, but anyone can score a shot. Now, that is where you are so wrong. The reason, pound for pound, the most expensive footballers always are, always will be, and always have been, is strikers, is because not anyone can score. And it's not about scoring a shot, because XG wouldn't be a thing if it was about one singular shot. It's about multiple goal getting, like multiple goal getters. Now, I'm sorry, they aren't to a penny. Strikers who bring goals are gold dust. They're not anyone. That is not an anyone thing at all. There'll be no one that agrees that that's something that anyone can do. This is where, again, this XG thing is trying to simplify football onto a spreadsheet. It doesn't work like that. The reason the strikers cost the most money in football, Connor, why is it? Because it is the hardest thing in the game to do. Physical goals are more important and more valuable to a team than XG. I am in no doubt about it. But Rooster says he is an analytics professional. I can see I'm not going to convince you, so I'll zip it now. I appreciate you giving me a fair shot. Rooster, mate. That's not my style.
I like that.
We bring on the T.N.F is about this, mate. I want the debate, and sometimes it's so easy, and we've been guilty of it on the bus as well. That everything Connor says, I just go, "Oh, Connor, you're absolutely right, mate. Yeah, totally agree with that." Or at the end of everything someone says, the other person goes, "Absolutely." That's what you always hear on podcasts. So no, I like someone who can bring a bit to the table. And good luck in your career, by the way, as well. It is interesting, but for me, absolutely not. But at the end of the day, my best pal's a T-Rex, so what can I say, man? Now, we do like to go to the viewers' corner. We do like to get their views on things. So we will wait for some comments to come up. Just as we're waiting for anyone who wants to bring up a fresh talking point that we've not discussed tonight, please feel free. There's 121 watching live right now. Remember to hit that like button, hit the wee bell if you want notifications, hit share if you want to become a member. There is an option to do that as well. Now, one other wee topic for a wee bit of fun, right? What if a former Celt was to join Man United? Moussa Dembele. Now, are you amazed? Leon are trying to punt him, right? Because he's got 1 year left in his deal and he's not signing a new one. So him and a couple others at Leon, they're trying to get off. Are you not amazed? Are you not amazed that Man U haven't looked at him already instead of £40 million fifth choice Atletico Madrid strikers? I think Moussa's got that swagger as well. That team like Man United would miss. I know it's just a wee bit of fun, but I think Moussa Dembele and Man United, I like the sound of, Connor.
I mean, see, to be honest, Man U just seems to be like a bit of a poison chalice. And to be honest, the Premier League I've not watched a lot of in the last maybe 2-3 years, but like Man U just seem like an absolute comedy sketch now. But I mean, a player like Moussa with a bit, he's got arrogance, but he's got the right kind of arrogance and kind of a bit of swagger. I think it would be a good fit, but I would actually be worried in another sense that he goes like the amount of play-up centre backs in the world at the time he signed for Man U. Like I'm trying to think. Cristiano Ronaldo, I know he scored 18 goals last season, but like his whole spell's becoming a bit of a shambles where he's trying to get out and nobody will take him. Like Jadon Sancho, he was the golden boy of he was an ex-star of the England national team, a
Yeah.
golden boy in European football. It's
That's
hardly
true.
really done anything. Rashford started on flames the first kind of year or so he was there.
Yep.
Totally shadow of that player. Like you could actually go on. I mean, the amount of
That's true.
the amount of they must have spent about $1 billion in the last between 5 years and 10 years. They must have spent something close to £1 billion. And
Aye.
how
It's scary.
many signings have they made that have actually been a success? Like,
I know.
how the level
But
of player they've brought in, and
Do you
they've
not
just
think
never.
though? Do you not think though? Musa's a different breed, and I think it's very interesting how whilst Man United are getting added on right now, 50-60% to transfer values right now, Connor, right? And they are, and I feel almost. I mean, for as much as they get criticised to fuck, right, for not being able to get deals done, you have to remember the other clubs rip the absolute piss out of them, right? Because they just go, "You're in the spotlight for not bringing in players right now. You're desperate and you're loaded. There's another 30 million in the price tag," and they've got to hold their metal as well and go, "I can't pay that for him. That's just, he's not worth it." And eventually, it looks like they're back. Sorry, they're backing away. I just said sorry to my own microphone. But the thing is, with Musa, the Leon will play ball because they're determined to sell him this summer.
Yeah.
They don't want him going to Juventus next summer for free, for example. They want the fee in because there's a few contract rebels. I'm led to believe. Sources tell me, and I just think Dembele is a player who's no shy, mate. I think he'd go to Man United and say, "Is Ronaldo gone yet? Well, give me that fucking jersey, no problem." And I think he's got that arrogance, as you rightfully say, balanced in the right way. I think he's got the arrogance at the right level, not the wrong level. He's not going to cause trouble, but he's going to be infectious to the crowd. And I think he's got unfinished business in England. And I also think as well, you've got to be totally honest. If Manchester United were where they should be in English football, would they even be looking at Musa? So that's the thing, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but maybe this is the only chance he'll get to play for Man United and play a starring role as opposed to maybe if he was to join when they were, top 2, top 3 regulars, that maybe he would be a sub coming on the bench. I think Dembele, Man United, I think that would be very, very interesting, don't you?
Aye, and see, to be honest, I would actually hate to see it. It's a club I've actually never really taken to. Like,
right?
Do you know this? I'm going to sound petty because I've never let this guy actually go. But do you remember years ago? What year would that have been? 2004. I'm going to say. The comments can correct me because they'll know what I'm talking about. But I was a young guy, and there was a young guy coming through at Celtic by the name of Liam Miller, and he very fast he became my favourite player, my favourite Celtic player at the time. And Man U coming in and taking him at that time, I was absolutely devastated about it.
50 grand a week.
Aye. Absolutely. Oh no! I don't blame any part. I don't blame Man U for coming in and taking a player who was on fire at the time.
Yeah.
Well, I did it at the time because I was 7-year-old, but I've actually never been able to get over that. I hated Man U for that second, and I've actually never been able to get over it since. But I've realised in hindsight, I mean, why that transfer deal would have happened. But like ever since, I've just had this thing about Man United. Apart from, see, when Henrik played for them, I had to support them kind of when Henrik played with them. You know what I mean? But again, Musa going there, it wouldn't be something I would actually want to see. But in terms of, I think he would be a success there. Whether he would be good enough to actually overturn the absolute nonsense that's going on at that club, I'm not so sure. But
I think he'd be a breath of fresh air there. I think the fans
I don't think he'd do the whole Ronaldo thing in terms of it's all about me. I'm going to throw my toys at the pram because the odd thing's not going my way. I mean, listen. I know Ronaldo's one of the greatest players of all time. I'm not trying to put Musa in the same bracket, but I don't think Musa would come with that kind of attitude at the same time.
No.
So I think he would be a success, but as I say, I think Man U's a total poison chalice at the minute.
Yeah, well, I agree with that. I think for just the last thing, I just think the fans need guys that are going to, give a fuck a wee bit more. Like, play with a wee bit of like at it. Do you know what I mean? I think the thing about Dembele was Dembele can throw boys about as well. He's a big physical boy. You know what I mean? Up top.
And see the thing about Dembele, see when we actually signed him, I was delighted by the way because I thought, oh, that's a bit of a golden boy. But my one concern was, is he coming to Celtic to put himself in the shop window and play for his next move? Is that the idea behind this transfer? But you seen from the get-go, Musa got it from the moment he was at Celtic to the moment he left. Like, he gave everything for the club. Well, he had his off days like anyone, but for in terms of for the shot, like in the big games and in the big games, like Musa really cared about what he was doing for Celtic, and like we see even now he's been away for, I don't know, must be 3 or 4 years he's been away now, maybe even 3 or 4. It must be about that. But you see even now, like every time Celtic have a good result, he's on Twitter getting it loudly. Every time Rangers have a bad result, he's on Twitter getting it loudly. So like, he still has passion for the club, and I really love to see that for players. Who really essentially was at Celtic for 2 years, and that's what the club means to him now. So
that's class, eh? That is class. I mean, he was always going to move on, and we enjoyed him when we had him. But yeah, I just thought it was an interesting talking point.
The only gutting thing is we never got to see the full effect of him and Eddie together.
That's true.
I remember being I can't mind who were, but it was like one of the proper early Champions League qualifiers, and I actually turned up late because I remember being at the game and thinking, have we got a man sent off here? Because it turned out Haksabanovic had been sent off really early doors. I'm really trying to remember who we were playing, but it's not coming to me. But Musa and Eddie played together that night, and we're just giving a wee kind of glimpse of what that could have been like, because they were frightening together, albeit against not the best opposition, but like.
Remember against Rangers at Ibrox.
That was
great example.
That was probably the first time Eddie had really announced his sale that day, and he was playing up. Musa obviously played him in for that iconic goal. That see the image of that, the behind shot of that goal. It's absolutely brilliant. But that night there was a wee snippet. Oh, this could be frightening this season, and then unfortunately it all unfurled with Rodgers and Dembele falling out, and then it all fell to pieces. And Musa obviously left that summer, and we never really got to see it in full flow. But that's something I always wish we seen.
Oh no,
a season of the two together.
It was good talking about Mr. Dembele. We will be back tomorrow night as well. We're not going yet, by the way. It just reminded me that we will be back tomorrow night as well, talking about another former Celtic striker, the one, the only Chris Sutton. Myself and Phil McGinley and Liam Greenlaw will be doing Friday night Nostalgia. It is the new home of Nostalgia. It's going to be Friday nights going forward. So that'll be brilliant. We're looking forward to Phil doing it on a Friday night from now on. And we are going to be talking at length about the career of Chris Sutton, predominantly in a Celtic shirt, but we're going to be looking, prior to his career coming to Celtic and just reminding ourselves what a player it was Celtic were picking up at that time. When you look at his CV at that point and his age, fucking unheard of us getting someone like that these days,
I met him fairly recently at a St. Roch Speakers night. What a guy he is.
He's the man.
Some stories. Brilliant guy.
I absolutely love him. Anyway, there was an interesting point that came in. We'll get back to talking current affairs Celtic. It was nice to talk about Musa though. Even in a hypothetical manner. I like stuff like that. We had a comment come in for Scott Cameron. I know you've not been well, Scott. I've been sort of trying to keep up with the comments, mate. You take it easy, pal. But Scott was saying he'd heard a rumour about Stephen Welsh, and I did see the story. Stephen Welsh apparently was going to be potentially getting operated in a different position. Now, Scott's came in the comments saying apparently that position is going to be holding midfield. They might be sort of looking at him adapting to. What do you make of that? I'm not sure if Scott's right or not with that position, but it's a comment that we'll talk about.
Do you know, I did actually see a wee kind of snippet on Twitter about something about a new role for Welsh. I never went into it, so I don't know if it's accurate to say holding midfielders a role, but I suppose it would kind of make sense. Centre backs can quite often operate in that role. So, But I've got to say, I'd be quite surprised, to be honest. I don't think I've never thought that Welsh is that incredible on the ball that we really need to see him operate a bit further up the park. I've maybe thought it about guys like Christopher Ayer in the past, but like, no Stephen Welsh, to be honest. And that's I've nothing against Stephen Welsh at all. I think he kind of comes in for a hard time off some supporters, but at the same time, I think he's very much fourth choice, and that's it, fourth choice centre half. But whenever I've seen him play, I've never thought, he's got it on the ball. We need to see him further up. But I'd love to be proved wrong in that. I'd love for him to go into the number 6 and be the next Wanyama, but I'd be very, very surprised, to be honest.
It would be taking that Ange versatility thing that we were talking about to even a level I didn't know was capable, Conor.
Absolutely. I mean, as I say, I'd be very, very surprised. But
I think he'll still get game time at centre back this year. You know that. I think the competition for the place is very difficult, but I still think we might see the League Cup this year. Maybe the sort of opportunities for the the guys in defence who aren't getting as much game time, because I think Ange in the matches that I don't want to say matter, every game matters, but like your leagues, Champions Leagues, he's not going to try and upset the apple cart at the back. I don't think very often. I think he likes that structured.
To be honest, last year was actually a bit of a freakish season in terms of centre backs. It's first run I can properly remember where we had 2 fit centre backs near enough
just playing every week.
Like basically since the first game they played together, I think Starfelt was maybe out for 4 weeks at a time, and that was about it.
Do you know what's mental? Do you know what's mental about that with Starfelt that you just said there? He scored his first goal at the weekend. It was his 50th appearance for Celtic.
Exactly. And in fact, Starfelt actually was there at the start of last season. I'm forgetting. He basically signed to get flung in at the Tynecastle and right on you go, son. But I'm forgetting it. I was going to say he wasn't there at the start, but I'm forgetting he was. But 50 games is mental.
Already?
When you consider it's the third game of this current season, so. And obviously, he had a wee spell on the sidelines last year. So, as I say, it was a bit of a freakish season in terms of, for the most part of the season, we had a fit centre half partnership that wasn't really interrupted by injuries or that really throughout most of the season. Obviously, we've got Jens now to cover that as well. Jens is actually what I was wanting at. I mentioned this a couple of. I know I've not been on for a few weeks, but I think it was the second most recent show I done. I was wanting somebody to come in who was capable of challenging the 2 centre backs we had. I wasn't necessarily saying, right, we need to sign a centre back that's going to be head and shoulders better than Starfelt or Vickers, but I was wanting somebody that could come in and really be a serious challenge in the centre back position. I know it's early days with Jens, but I've been very impressed with what I've seen so far. Even in the wee snippet against Norwich, that up to now is the only time I've seen him in the flesh, but really liked what I saw.
Yeah, I mean, he's a very, very comfortable in the ball. He looks to me slightly better than Cameron Carter-Vickers in the ball, who I thought last season looked, very, very, very comfortable with the football at his feet.
Just shows you how it all pans out. If we signed Jens last year, we probably wouldn't have signed Carter-Vickers. So maybe it's worked out that we never got him last season, and now we're getting him this season. We've got the 2 of them now. So,
and just as we like to tie everything back up, mate, let's go back to the start of the show. You can never have too many good players. You wanted Jens last summer, you got CCV. Now you've got both, and the Swedish international. It's not fucking bad going, is it? And that's when you see evolution at Celtic. That's when people should be excited. See, the one criticism we've had of this club and the board, let's be honest, it's the board. Now, the reason for that a lot of the time is because Celtic's, over the last 20 years, been in so many positions of strength. You know what term or phrase I'm about to use. Yet, we never build from a position of strength. We dismantle it and then try and build it back to what it was a couple of years before that on the cheap. Rather than, the only example I can think of where we brought in a player who on paper, when you looked at the squad, probably wasn't needed but cost a fortune was, funnily enough, French Eddie. French Eddie was brought in on loan from PSG with an option to buy. Funny that
Yeah.
these deals
And he was,
work.
he was kind of brought in as a third option just because.
Choice.
Aye.
Choice, and often Rodgers only started one anyway. Most of the time, only started one. So he's third choice. And then you've got the situation. I hope I've not froze, by the way. I can see I've got one bar of Wi-Fi.
You did very, very briefly, but you're back again. It's fine.
Hey, but very interestingly, we brought in Edward with the option to buy £9 million to compete for one position with two others already there. Lee Griffiths, who by this point has scored, 80, 90 goals in a Celtic shirt, and Moussa Dembele, who obviously at this point is the big dog at Celtic, the main man. Then I can't call him by his actual nickname. I've got a job. But we also then bring in a guy on loan for a year to get him to adapt and then sign him anyway. At that point, Moussa's not going anywhere, remember. Moussa didn't leave till the last day of the window. So we've got a £9 million striker to complement a Lee Griffiths, who has scored so many goals, and Moussa Dembele, who at this point is wearing the crown. If the crown may not be his, but he certainly borrowed it for a couple of years at Celtic. That is called building from a position of strength, Connor. Do you know what I mean? What happened is the top guy went out for nearly £20 million, and once he gets sold again, it will clear £20 million. Eddie became the top dog for a few years. Then he leaves for £18 million, only a year left in his deal. If he moves on again, that'll clear £20 million. That is what you do when you're building from a position of strength. We do not do that enough. Right now, I am beginning to think we are maybe a bit less aggressively than I would if it had been my money. It's not my money. But I would obviously be slightly more aggressive with it because I think the pros outweigh the cons. But when we actually strip away all the, the prejudgment, prejudice that I've got towards the board, which there is, I'm biased. I don't trust them, right? But when you strip all that back, at the end of the day, the two key signings on loan were made permanent. Whether that was the money was there already, I'm sure it was. But I'm glad they were both done. They were priority signings. We've further then enhanced the centre-back position. We've got a Swedish international competing with a £6 million USA international, competing with a target from last year who joined a different club from us for £5 million last summer. We've got him with an option to buy as well. So it's likely his long-term future, provided he delivers this season, will also be at Celtic. That's three top players competing for that spot. And we've got a youth product there that Ange's given plenty of game time to, and obviously has trust in as well. That position's been greatly strengthened. We bring in Haksabanovic. That gives us now options that, in the winger positions you couldn't even believe. Maeda, Jota, Haksabanovic. You're looking at James Forrest, Leo Labada. It's the one I'm missing. I feel like there's one I'm even missing, but that's
Mikey Johnson. But I think he'll be away by the end of this window. Probably but I think he'll be away.
Oh, this is always built. This is called building from a position of strength. The Haksabanovic signing may look. Is it necessary? Is it? Who knows? But what we do know is that strengthens an already extremely strong department of the team. I find that encouraging, Connor. Not a bad thing. It's not for us ever to worry about poor little Leo Labada getting 15 grand a week if he's not in the team. His problem. He's got to get himself in the team. Because Andrew
and at the same time, Abada's looked hungry every time he's come on.
It was just an example. It was just an example.
I get
hypothetically.
Hypothetically. Abada looks ready for... Listen, he's going to get a start in the next few games. I'd be surprised if he never. But because we're breeding this competition, every time Abada comes on, he looks like, right, I'm going to need to take my chance here because if I come on, I'm just a passenger. I'm not going to be near the team next week. So, but we're starting to see hunger. Listen, I'm going to put a name out there who's caused a bit of controversy at the start of the week. But Bernabe came in at left back, and while he's not been a success so far, how good's Greg Taylor been with that competition? Greg Taylor looks. Look, I've always quite liked Greg Taylor, but that's about it. It's just somebody I've quite liked, quite defendable,
6 or 7 out of 10.
and that's it. But Greg Taylor looks a totally different player this year. Greg Taylor is arguably been our best player so far this season, and just like, the way he receives the ball now, his range of passing, like, it's all improved. Like he looks a completely different player, as I've said. And it's brilliant to see. I'm wanting Greg Taylor to take his game to the next level and be that left back we've been missing.
And it's because you're saying...
and you could put it down to the competition he's got now with Bernabei. I know, obviously, what's happened with Bernabei's happened, and I'm not really going to say much more on it, but the only thing I'm going to say at this point is it's breeded competition for the left back position.
I think so. I 100% think you're right. And the thing is, Celtic, if they are going to, qualify for the Champions League first and foremost on a regular basis, right? I did see through the week that just how difficult it is again, and I'm not, Rangers got a fortunate goal or whatever, but, PSV Eindhoven would have been a nightmare draw if we were drawn with them in a third, the playoff round. And it reminds
I thought they looked pretty good, to be fair. I actually watched it and it was not a bad game, I'll be honest. But I thought PSV were pretty good, considering what it's like every time they play somebody, within 10 minutes, Twitter's going, oh, Leipzig look rubbish, or Dortmund look rubbish, and you're like, well, if a team's doing a job in them, then these teams aren't all automatically rubbish when they play Rangers, but
no,
we know what it's like.
So we know what it's like.
I knew as soon as the game started and PSV never scored in the first 20 minutes, you would see a few folk going, PSV don't look too strong or that, but
I know.
That is what it is, isn't it?
Tattoo Face 77, the Molotov King, has become a YouTube member. What a legend! Welcome aboard, Tattoo Face, and thank you for supporting the Bhoycie Bus channel. Conor, I totally agree with that. This is why I think it's very important that if there is the scope to sign another winger, which I'm all for, right?
Yep.
Does it bloat that position a bit? Yes. Are these well-paid footballers? Yes. Do I feel sorry for them if they're on the bench kicking and screaming? No. I don't give a monkeys, mate. It's all about what's best for Celtic. Competition. We've just given so many examples there as to why that is so key. Now, I think our mission between now and the 1st of September will be get a striker in, because you like buying forward players, Ange. And if you were going to bring a midfielder, make them over 6 foot. That sounds very simple, but you know what I mean. Make them physically dominant. They don't need to be 6 foot. It'll be interesting to see what other moves we make. For me, I think there will still be another player in. I'm not sure what position it will be, although I'm convinced, based on the example that we've got with the Haksabanovic transfer, I think that to me strengthens the case that 3 strikers for one position ain't all that crazy. It ain't all that big a deal. And I think it makes more sense than, than the people made out when there was a link a few weeks ago to a certain striker.
Yeah, I mean, the rumblings about a striker, they've been quiet, they've also not been going away. And I think there's maybe something that the one I've seen a couple of times has been Ryan May for Ferencváros. That's the one that's automatically springing to mind. There has been others, obviously. There was non-stop talk about Jordan Larson for obvious reasons the other week. Obviously, we know that's not going to happen now, but there's been a couple of kind of rumblings about different strikers, so I think there's possibly something in that. But I think how many? I think there's still a fortnight left of the window. Transfer activity all over the world will start to ramp up in the next couple of weeks, so we'll see if we are actually finished yet or not. After Haksabanovic, hopefully.
I think there'll still be one more that comes in. Who that will be, I'm not entirely sure, but you're getting agreement from Mark Kearney, Conor. You can't go on life if the judge is agreeing with you.
I must be doing all right.
You must be doing all right, mate. Now, we will leave it there. That's been an hour and 4 minutes. There's 127 live. Please, if you do get the chance, hit hit the subscribe button, hit the wee bell if you want a wee Bhoycie Bus notification. And a big thank you to Tattoo Face for becoming our latest YouTube member. It's optional $1.99 a month, the same as what a Patreon would be. It helps us cover the cost, pay the bills. Basically, it's that simple. We want the channel to be self-sufficient. I've no more t-shirts to sell, I've no sponsors, so it is a big help. Conor McCann, you were on fire the night. What a display. Man of the match, and the champagne goes to you, big boy. It's time to listen to the words of Chris Sutton, because we're going to be speaking about him a hell of a lot tomorrow night. Good night.
Look forward to it.
Some of his comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now, and you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan.